So A.E. Russell is one of the world figures of literature. It's long overdue that his legacy be resurfaced. The festival here in Lurgan and Armagh has been doing a tremendous job in doing so in the last couple of years. Myself and my partner Laura have been involved giving presentations since last year and also this year. And we're delighted to encourage expansion into South Armagh to look at Slieve Gullion. So I'm just going to talk for about 5 minutes about why Slieve Gullion. So Slieve Gullion was a place of pilgrimage for the Irish writer George Moore with A.E. Russell. Moore had come back to Dublin in 1901, and A.E. took him to Doubt and Newgrange and then also up Slieve Gullion. And there's just a couple of quotes from George Moore's great autobiography, Hail and Farewell. I'm just going to look at today. He says, one of the quotes from A.E., just the second paragraph here, and again, I'm going to go relatively fast because he says A.E., when he started giving speeches to Irish audiences from the Esplanade in Bray, he would say the following: "The Gael seeks again the gods of the mountains, where they live enfolded in a mantle of multitudinous tradition. Once more out of the heart of mystery, he had heard the call, 'Come away,' and after that no other voice had power to lure. There remained only the long heroic labors which ended in companionship with the gods." So we can see psychologically and culturally, Ireland through Yeats and A.E. is reigniting a spiritual imagination through connecting with the gods, the cultural energy centers that had been buried under the colonial kind of amnesia, the darkness of the colonial epoch, the worst years of the famine in the mid-19th century. A.E.'s own grandmother, had died in the famine. And so this sense in the 1880s and the 1890s of renewing the deep centers, the deep numinous energies, is identified with A.E. in his painting and his poetry, but reigniting connection with the landscape. So Newgrange was one place, Doubt was another place, the Hill of Tara was another, but Slieve Gullion here in South Armagh was very important for that. These are just quotes giving the account of the pilgrimage to Armagh to Slieve Gullion in 1901. So I'm going to just jump here to the pilgrimage, right? He's describing the personality of A.E. Moore says, A.E. is extraordinarily forthcoming. Last paragraph there. A.E. is extraordinarily forthcoming, and while speaking on a subject that interests him, nothing of himself remains behind. The revelation is continuous, and the belief imminent that he comes of divine stock and has been sent into the world on an errand. These are light images in the ancient Irish context of Lugh. I think A.E. in connecting with the landscape and the gods is bringing that light back into Irish culture. This is why he's called the luminous center of the Irish literary Renaissance. He has that what are known as the dragon crests in his art of great goddess and god figures in the Irish landscape. He's igniting a sense of brightness, of illumination, of brilliance in connecting with Irish culture through his poetry. And he's that great figure, the catalyst figure, the mentor figure who ignites James Joyce, Patrick Kavanagh, called him a holy sage, these figures who become generations of poets, right? And one of the figures who's with him is George Moore, who's come back from England. He's spent his early youth in Paris, and he's a satirist, he's a realist, he's an agnostic, he's a skeptic, but he's the one who tests A.E. And in his company, he can't diminish what A.E. is doing. George Moore is engulfed by the prophetic energy, the Lugh force, the solar force that Ireland needed to reignite itself after the dark decades of oppression and depression and immigration and losing its way. A.E. is the figure who is brilliantly illuminated, like an early saint figure, like a Cowan Kill, or like Lugh in the chronicles of the Second Battle of Moytura, taking on Balor of the Evil Eye. That illumination is something that A.E. is carrying. Okay, so then he hikes up Slieve Gullion. So this is the place where visions of figures like Finn can be found. George Moore is exhausted, so he leaves A.E. alone, and then A.E. goes up Slieve Gullion, and Moore stays behind. And Moore says, "Great as the force of his will undoubtedly is, he could not infuse in me enough energy to proceed. My body remained inert, and he left me, saying that alone he would climb the mountain. Going to see Finn, I murmured, and had I strength, I would sit with him by the holy lake, waiting for the vision, but I may not." He had been glad to dip his hat into the lake. So he gets back and he tells Moore what happened. And he said, He drank the soft bog water, and then he lay at length among the heather. So intense was the silence that his thoughts were afraid to move, and he had lain, his eyes roving over boundless space. So this is a condition of almost cosmic consciousness up by the cairn, up by the kayak lake on Slieve Gullion. There's this kind of a meditation in silence. This is sometimes called a state of pure consciousness, or a consciousness state, where he's just in an unbounded state. And I think that's necessary to help reignite the potential mythic and cultural energy in Irish culture. So he had lain, his eyes roving over boundless space, seeing nothing but the phantom tops of distant mountains. Obviously, Slieve Gullion is the king in the ring of Gullion that looks at the little lesser mountains surrounding it. The outer rim of the world, so did they seem to him. And then I'm just going to read one little quote. This is a quote of what happened in the Lake of Gullion. This is one version. There are a variety of versions. So Finn and his hounds once pursued a grey fawn to Slieve Gullion, where he found a young girl mourning the loss of her gold ring, which had fallen into the lake. At her request, Finn plunged into the lake to search for the ring. The instant he gave it back to her, she vanished into the lake, and Finn was transformed into an aged man. The girl was queen of the Sidhe, whose love Finn had rejected in preference for her sisters. Finn was eventually restored to his youth by a magic potion, but ever afterwards he retained his white hair. And I think that Finn, because Finn is associated with white and brightness, that's a sort of a rejuvenation story, but retaining the aged look of the white hair, but being restored to youth. That story encapsulates in a small kind of microcosm the energy that AE is bringing to Irish culture. So Finn in his whiteness suggests the brightness of Lugh, and that sense of renewing Irish culture and restoring Irish culture is entirely tied into Slieve Gullion, the Kayak Lake, the cairn, and the ancient mythic landscape. And so it's necessary to go on a pilgrimage in 1901 to reconnect with that energy, to help. From 1901 until his death in 1935, he is at the center of the Irish literary renaissance. He holds conversation salons. He's an editor at the Irish Homestead and then later at the Irish Statesman. And he becomes a figure who is, if you visited Dublin, you had to see the Phoenix Park and you had to see AE. He becomes a central force of creative energy in Ireland and then internationally across in the United States. So thank you very much.